2D platformers seem to have made quite the resurgence over the past few years. With so many of these games to play across multiple platforms, it's easy to get lost in the vast sea of platformers. However, I'm here to tell you about one that I've played fairly recently and have had a blast with, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, which is available on 3DS, Wii U, Xbox One, PS4, and Steam. Pirate's Curse is the third entry in the Shantae series, and takes place immediately after the events of the second game, Risky's Revenge. In Pirate's Curse, the main villain isn't actually Risky Boots, which is the villain from previous entries. A new villain has stepped up to the plate, being the Pirate Master, who has placed a curse on Sequinland, hence the name Pirate's Curse. Veterans of the series will know that some pretty crazy things can happen in a Shantae game, and this game is no different. Through a series of wacky events that could only happen in the context of a Shantae game, you must form an alliance with your arch-nemesis Risky Boots to take down the Pirate Master. It's an ironic duo, but it definitely makes sense with the game's story, which I won't delve into too much so that you can experience it for yourself. The story isn't super complicated, which is nice since it doesn't get in the way of the action. It is, however, a fun story to follow along with, so I wouldn't recommend button mashing through the dialogue. While I've never played the original Shantae, and likely will never get to, this game does play quite similar, yet quite differently from Risky's Revenge. While Shantae can still jump and run as fluently as ever, you no longer have Shantae's belly dancing transformations. Instead, you have items that you find throughout the 7-hour story. Each item gets assigned to a button on the controller, so you don't have to fumble through your inventory to equip an item. This is actually a very smart design choice, since you aren't interrupting the pace of the game, and there are many times where you'll be using 2 or more items, one right after the other. I won't go into too much detail on the items, so that you can find them and use them for yourself, and experience the joy that it is to explore with them. I will say that the items allow for much more creative ways to explore and progress through environments than in Risky's Revenge. Speaking of, a big problem I had in the world with Risky's Revenge was that it was one huge world with teleporters scattered throughout it. However, these teleporters were sometimes in pretty inconvenient spots for major story points. If you're going to make a Metroidvania style game, making navigation as easy as possible and with little tedium is very important. Pirate's Curse fortunately handles navigation quite well. The world is split up into 7 different islands, all of which have tons to see and do. For example, you've got your main hub island with Shantae's house, Scuttletown, and other familiar environments to the Shantae series. But then there are 5 other islands of varying environments, each with their own dungeon, or Den of Evil as this game likes to call them. The 7th island is home to the Pirate Master, but that's not too hard to figure out. None of the islands feel too massive, so it's basically impossible to get lost, but it also makes backtracking a lot easier. Anyone who's a fan of the Metroid or Zelda series, or both, will feel at home in this game, as it takes inspiration from both. Pirate's Curse has environments that require repeat visits, both for story objectives and finding secrets once Shantae gains new items, similar on how Metroid games are structured. However, with repeat visits comes enemies that you'll have to fight through, or at least try your best to avoid. Another complaint I had about Risky's Revenge is that fighting enemies felt pointless, since all you really got were gems or health drops. This made the backtracking in Risky's Revenge more annoying than it had to be. While you could try to run past the enemies, you were likely to get hurt. However, in this game, enemies are much more rewarding to fight, as they can drop useful items such as one-time use power-ups or health restores that will definitely come in handy. Plus, by the time you make it to the 2nd or 3rd visit to an area, you'll likely have acquired other means of combat, making killing enemies much easier. While the enemies offer more incentive to fight them, they can still be kind of annoying, but not nearly as much as Risky's Revenge. On the Zelda side of the spectrum, Pirate's Curse Dens of Evil feel like Zelda dungeons, but in 2D. Oh yeah, that's already been done. Well, whatever, the Dens of Evil are definitely better. These labyrinth-like areas have tons of puzzles to solve, and tons of enemies to defeat. Each dungeon has an item that's used for progression through the Den of Evil, and against the boss waiting for you at the end. The bosses are actually a lot of fun to fight, and provide a fair challenge. I love how the Dens of Evil never drag on too long, so they're fun the whole way through. It's never too difficult to figure out where to go, whether you're in a dungeon or not, since you've always got a handy-dandy map to refer to, which by the way, looks like it's straight out of Super Metroid, so you know it's a good map. I would suggest playing the Wii U version of the game, since the map can always be on the gamepad for quick reference. Pirate Curse's extra collectible items actually have very rewarding payoff. Heart squids act like heart pieces in the Zelda series, where if you collect 4 of them, you can gain another heart container. The only difference is that you have to see Scuttletown's Squidsmith to make the exchange for a heart container. The other collectible is the dark magic you obtain from killing Tinkerbats. I'll keep the surprise of collecting them all from you, cause it's a pretty awesome payoff. Some of these collectibles can be picked up as you're progressing through environments and dungeons, while others will be in areas inaccessible to Shantae until she acquires a way of getting to those areas. There's also weapon upgrades and new moves that Shantae can learn by purchasing them with in-game currency at the Scuttletown store. I don't see the logic in paying money to suddenly learn a new move, but hey, it's a Shantae game, so it doesn't really have to make sense. Now let's talk about how freaking charming and funny the characters are with their dialogue. The conversations are extremely fun to read. For example, look at this conversation between Shantae and Squid Baron, who was a boss in Risky's Revenge. He's breaking the fourth wall by talking about how he's destined to be just a filler boss. It's super silly, and I love it. And I kinda wish more games had this kind of sense of humor. Maybe I'm just not playing the right games. Or check this guy out, who's literally He-Man. There's tons of playful dialogue to gobble up in Pirate's Curse, so take the time to talk to all the NPCs. As for the visuals, they're as pixel perfect as pixel art gets. Everything is animated beautifully, from the way Shantae's hair flows to the creepy way these pumpkin people move. It's a delight on the eyes for sure. And there's no way I could skip out on talking about the music in this game. Jake Kaufman is definitely a great composer, and Pirate's Curse might be his greatest work yet. Every single piece of music is on point, and fits in very nicely with the environment or situation at hand. It ranges from very upbeat and exciting to dark and creepy. Sometimes I would find myself just sitting still to listen to the game's music. I even listen to this music sometimes when I'm working. It's seriously amazing. So there you have it. I love Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Not only is it a huge improvement over Risky's Revenge, but it controls like a dream, the story and characters are super interesting and charming, and the game's presentation is just an absolute treat. If you love 2D platformers, this is a must-play. Shantae Half Genie Hero is scheduled to come out later this fall, and Pirate's Curse is a big reason why I'm excited for it. Pirate's Curse is only about $20 on the eShop, though I don't know its prices for Sony or Microsoft stores. I can't imagine they're very different though. This is a very replayable game. Hell, I've completed it 3 times since July. It's definitely worthy of a $20 purchase. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like. If you want to see more reviews, discussions, and updates, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Twitter, which there are links for in the description below.